Risotto isn't the first dish I ever cooked, but it has been the one I've cooked the most. I've always cooked risotto with the pour and stir technique, so that's what I'm doing here. Pour means you pour liquid into the rice by the ladleful as it cooks, all while stirring vigorously. I focus on one of my favorite summer pairings for this recipe: tomatoes and fennel. The tomato brings out the savory character of the fennel, while the fennel brings out the herbaceous, peppery qualities of the tomato. With every risotto I make, I start with a shallot. By the end, these shallots will have melted into the sauce. You'll see me cooking with shallots across all of my recipes. I'm a big fan of them because they're not as assertive as an onion, but they are as flavorful as them. They're also small, so the portion control is sort of built in. I'll be honest, fennel has long been an intimidating vegetable for me. It has three distinct parts: the bushy fronds, the usually fibrous stalks, and the crunchy, tender bulb. This is baby fennel, so those stalks haven't gotten so tough yet, but boy, there is a jungle of fronds. To prep these, I just separate the bulb from the stalks and then the stalks from the fronds. I'm definitely going to use some of these fronds, but there are way too many for one dish. Once I remove them from the stalks, I usually treat them like an herb. I'll loosely wrap them with a damp paper towel, throw that bundle in a produce bag, and store it in the fridge. Even in baby fennel, the stalks can get a little woody if you eat them raw, but I like to chop them thin and small and then add them into the pan when I saute the shallots. This gives them time to break down over the course of the cooking while imparting their flavor into the risotto. The bulb is basically the petite filet of the fennel. It's tender and sweet after you cook it a little while, and when everything else is melting into the sauce, these slices will retain some of their shape over the course of the rest of the cook. I'll add these about halfway through the cooking time to help keep them a bit more intact. As for the tomatoes, well, there isn't much to say. It's mid-July, and they are already abundant in nearly every market or grocery store. They're quintessentially Italian in the way we think about Italian cuisine, even though they're native to Mexico and didn't land in Europe until the 1500s. While I don't often see tomatoes in risotto recipes, the exception of course being supli alla romana, they're a perfect fit for this type of dish. More on that in a second. Risotto is all about building flavor. This recipe has no dairy, no meat or meat stock. You don't miss any of it. This helps make the risotto much lighter and satisfying at any hot summer day or night. It's a one-pot dish that comes together through layering and stirring. There's a basic order of operations in risotti tipici. First, I'm adding my fat, extra virgin olive oil. Then I add aromatics, the shallots and then the fennel stalks, along with a pinch of salt to help break them down and melt into the olive oil. Once the shallots have sweated for about 5 minutes and look translucent, I add in the rice and coat it with our nascent pan sauce here. I'm using Carnaroli rice. This is one of the 3 primary types of short grain risotto rice, with Arborio and Vialone Nano being the other 2. Carnaroli is a slightly longer grain, and once it's cooked, it keeps its shape and texture more than Arborio. Then I will add the wine. Tasty, cheap, dry white wine. This is Pinot Project Pinot Grigio. When I'm looking for a dry white wine to cook with, I'll usually go with a common grape, either Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc. And then after I've selected the varietal, when I'm picking between producers at the wine store, I'm going to probably go with a European grape. Generally speaking, you're going to get drier wines from Europe than you will from California. If you have a good dry vermouth, that also works great. Once the wine has been absorbed, this is usually where you'll add your first ladle of stock or water. Instead, we're adding the tomatoes. Tomatoes have so much liquid to give off, they're a perfect fit in a risotto like this. I add them early so they can break down and intensify in flavor as this cooks. Once the tomatoes all look like they've heated through, I'll start adding in water. You can definitely have a separate pan of hot water next to you on the stove so you're not dropping the temperature of the pan when you add more water. That's the traditional way to do it. Really though, the pan of risotto will heat up whatever you throw in there pretty quickly, especially when you're only adding a small amount at a time. And now, we stir. The burner is on about a medium heat just to maintain a simmer. In the beginning, you sort of hang around the pot and stir every 5 minutes or so, adding a little more water here or there. If it starts to stick, add some more water, stir some more, walk away, come back, and then do it again. While we're waiting, let's talk about this rice. I'm using Acquarello brand Carnaroli, which is aged for at least a year and allegedly has higher nutritional content than that of other rice producers. According to Acquarello, due to their patented whitening method, the rice germ is absorbed into the grains, giving them all the nutritional value of brown rice. That's cool. It does taste good, and it costs a little bit more. It's a fun upgrade if you want to try something different. You can find a link in the description down below if you want to pick some up. Now, risotto is a great dish to make for a video, I thought, because I can tweak my camera setup in between stirring and adding liquid when there's some downtime. I was totally right, up until I did this. That is my little Aperture MC light tumbling into the boiling, bubbling cauldron of risotto after I bumped it when changing lenses on my camera. Oops. Lucky for me, it landed face down on its silicone softbox, which kept most of the liquid away from this little piece of electronics. Okay, back to more exciting things, like stirring. Now they're about halfway through, I'm adding in the chopped pieces of fennel bulb. There's plenty of time for these to cook and integrate into the dish, but not enough time for them to wither into something undistinguishable. After about the halfway point is when I begin tasting and seasoning regularly but judiciously. All those tomatoes definitely beg for salt, but I start slow because flavors are reducing and concentrating over the long haul. Once you taste it and the texture is right, you're done. I'm looking for rice that has a firm form but tender chew. If it's grainy at all, it's undercooked and it's not al dente. To me, a perfect risotto is wet and fluid, but not at all soupy. Regardless of how wet it is, the second you turn off the heat, all that starch in the risotto will begin to firm up a little bit. That's part of why it's recommended to serve it immediately and on a hot plate. I didn't bother with the hot plate. It's July, and I turned off my air conditioner to film this. Things are hot enough for me. I'll finish in the pot with a shower of good extra virgin olive oil to help balance the acidity from the wine and the tomatoes. When it's time to serve, it's typical to be spread out on a flat plate like this because, well, if you try to eat freshly made risotto out of a bowl, it is like hot lava. It's a balancing act where you want just hot enough risotto where it has some movement on the plate, but not so hot that you burn your face off when you take a bite. Alright, time for a few last flourishes before I dig in. A little more extra virgin olive oil, then some fennel pollen. This is a luxury ingredient and totally optional, but if you've got some fennel pollen just hanging around and need an excuse, it really sings with this combination of tomatoes and cooked fennel. I'll hit it with a few grinds of black pepper and then some of those fennel fronds. If you're counting, that's fennel 4 different ways now. And then that's it. That's tomato and fennel risotto. It's a labor of love on a hot summer day, yes, but there's nothing quite like it. No need to make a separate stock. All you do is start adding layers and stay attentive for about 45 to 60 minutes, and you've developed some deep, fresh summery flavor. If you've enjoyed this video, click the like button down below. And if you want to see more recipes like this, hit subscribe. That's it for me today. Thank you for coming. I'm going to see you next time. Bye now.